Hi everyone, I thought I'd hop on and just share with you my TBR for November. So this month we've got Nonfiction November and it's also IndigAThon. So I'm really excited because the majority of what I read is nonfiction. You'll also notice that my backdrop is different today. I thought I'd do something different and actually show you some of my collection. It's actually kind of a pain in the butt to sit with my back behind my books because there isn't anywhere really that I can sit. So I've got my phone propped up on a few books on a stool. So this might not be in every video situation until I decide to rearrange things, but oh well. If you like what you see, let me know. So anyways, I'll just share with you some of the books that I've decided to read for IndigAthon. So the first one is actually a Kindle read and it's called The Heartbreak at Wounded Knee. Sorry, The Heartbreak of Wounded Knee, and this is by David Truer. So I recently read a book by him for Archaeology Book Club called Res Life, which I did enjoy. So he's Ojibwe from the Leech Lake Reservation in Minnesota, and he's an anthropologist as well. So I really liked his sort of liminal and also two-sided view of what it was like growing up on a reservation, but also his appreciation of his upbringing and events based on his vocation. So I'm looking forward to what he has to say about events in American history leading up to Wounded Knee. So that's the first one, and that would really fit the nonfiction category for IndigAthon. There's a few others, but I think with what I'm currently reading this month, I don't think I'll probably be able to fit all of the prompts. I did, however, while I was scanning, looking for some books to read for IndigAthon, come across a book called, let me find it. Most of these are Kindle reads. It's called The Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabgeshe Grice. And I believe he's a Anishinaabe, and it's sort of an apocalyptic story about what happens when non-native people lose power. I don't really know what happens, and if I did, I suppose I wouldn't tell you because it would be a spoiler, but essentially what happens is they pretty much go to this reservation to look for support and help. So this doesn't fit any of the prompts for IndigAthon. I could lie and say that my favorite color is blue because the color of the book looks blue, but I look forward to reading that. It looks like a nice short read, but interesting as well. So one of the other Kindle reads that I was reading, and this goes into Nonfiction November. So the prompts for Nonfiction November, if you're not familiar with it, which I'm pretty sure everyone in this corner of BookTube is, style, collection, treatment, and industry. So I really had to stop myself from buying loads of new books because this would have been the perfect opportunity to, but I've got so many books in my collection that I should just read before I buy any more. So one of the books that I did buy earlier this year, not because of the pandemic, but just because it looked interesting, and I can't find it, but it's called Pandemic, and it's about the Spanish flu. And this book is by Catherine Arnold. And I actually just finished this book. I really enjoyed it. So it just looks at the history and the events that led up to the pandemic of 1918, the possible causes, and how we can use that event for future and current pandemics. And of course, as I was reading it, some things just never change. They were talking about anti-maskers, people who didn't want to, there were laws in place to prevent people from intermingling. But this would really fit the treatment category. I really liked her discussion of because medicine was technically still relatively new, even in the early 20th century, a lot of people reverted to folk medicine. and quite toxic medicines as well. So strychnine, folk medicines, including, use of voodoo in New Orleans. Whiskey was seen as a potential cure. So it was interesting in that regard, and also just quite frightening how easy it is for pandemics to break out if they're not curtailed. But anyways, so that was the book that I did currently finish. To be honest, I've got quite a few books that would fit the treatment category, but in different senses. So I'll just move on to the next ones that I've got, and I'll show you some physical books this time. So the first one that I'm currently reading, and this could fit the treatment, but also style and collection category as well. And this is Alison Weir's Isabella, the She-Wolf of France. So this is a biography, and yes, I am using a book as a bookmark. So this is a biography of Queen Isabella, who was married to Edward II of England. So this technically fits the treatment category because it's an examination of how she was viewed by historians in the past, and chroniclers who generally didn't have a really good opinion of women who didn't really fit the mold. So women who took on the reins of male activities were viewed with a lot of distrust because they weren't doing other, fulfilling their womanly duties of domestic activities. But Isabella gets a lot of negative attention as well because she instigated a coup against her husband and was in a well-known extramarital affair with the man who also launched an attack against her husband. But not without bad reason, technically. Edward II was, apart from John, King John, one of probably the worst kings in medieval history. He just wasn't fit for kingship, and it's really quite sad. I do feel a bit bad for him. If he wasn't the anointed king, he probably could have done plenty of other productive things with his life that he wanted to do. And there were some other rumors that were floating around about him regarding his sexual preferences, which during the day was viewed quite negatively. So anyways, it's not about him, it's about her. And it just examines the reasoning and her rationale for making the decision that she did, and possibly putting her in a more positive light than she was viewed historically. And this could fit the collection category as well, at least in my eyes. Sorry if you can hear that in the background, because Alison Weir, she does a lot of biographies of medieval women. So in her collection of biographies of medieval women, she also has one on Catherine Swynford, the mistress and then wife of John of Gaunt. And then she also has a couple of other books, one of which in my collection is called Queens of the Conquest. So this looks at both Matildas, I'm assuming, and possibly Eleanor of Aquitaine, so some well-known medieval women and queens. So I perhaps won't get to the other two biographies this month, but if I were to, it would fit the collection category. And this fits style as well because she was well known, Isabella, for her tastes in fashion, and Alison spends a lot of time examining that as well. So there you go. Those are probably, those are the only books that could probably fit the collection category. And as I say, most of them that I've mentioned fit the treatment category for different reasons. So society's treatment of women versus treatment in the medical sense. There was another book that I had, I believe, but I don't have it in my pile here. But anyways, I think that's perhaps a good place to stop. So I've just shown you some of my TBR for IndigAthon and also Nonfiction November. If I have a chance to read any more, because I'm already halfway finished with one book and I finished the other one last week, then I'll update you. I'm more of a mood reader anyway, so if I find another book in the next couple of weeks, it perhaps might take my fancy and I might read that over the other ones. So we'll see. So yes, anyways, I might do a video where I show you some of the books that I've got in my collection. As I say, I haven't really shown you this before just because the backdrop, setting it up is kind of a pain in the butt, but maybe I'll just take some books from my collections and show you a shelf by shelf tour. I don't have that many books. I live in a very small flat in London, in England, nowhere near London. But I don't really buy that many books just because I don't really have anywhere to store them. But if you are interested in seeing what I have, let me know. But anyways, that was my so far Nonfiction November and IndigAthon TBR. So if you have any comments or questions, let me know in the comments down below. But everyone have a great week and hope to see you all later. Bye.